Question number 3, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all his statements?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.
Supplementary question. Order. Order. Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Does he stand by his statement on the prices New Zealanders are paying for their power? Quote, I think that they are paying a price in relation to the environment we find ourselves in, end quote. If so, why?
Did you ban? Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, in the context I made it.
The context being wrong. Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With electricity prices rising over 5 times faster than the rate of inflation in the past year, why has his government insisted that Transpower pay $1.16 billion in dividends?
$1.16 billion. Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, at least the member has correctly identified what is the root of most of the increase, which is transmission. Some time ago, I remember the member actually being on his feet arguing that dividends were such a great thing and the government should be getting a lot more of them.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Is it correct that as a result of those $1.16 billion in dividends being paid to the government, each New Zealand householder will pay an extra $370 more for power?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I can't confirm those numbers. What I can say is that Labor prices went up. Power prices went up 72% under Labor. They're going up much more slowly under a national-led government. I also know that under a Labor government, the ETS charges would be much more significant than they are under national.
Supplementary order.
Mr Speaker.
Order. Supplementary question.
Does he think it's fair that New Zealand households have to pay an additional $370 for power because of his government's decision to collect the dividends?
Well,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The member's making an assumption that I can't be sure is correct. I'd need to go and check those details. But what I can say is that Transpower has been making substantial investments in recent times, and I think Aucklanders who suffered significant blackouts at one point will remember what impact that had on the city. So those investments are absolutely necessary.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. If he is questioning the figures, is he saying that the Transpower statement of intent tabled by his minister is inaccurate, and if so, why?
Order. The interchange between the front benches of both National and Labor is so loud it is difficult for me to hear the question that's been raised by David Shearer. Would he please repeat the question? Order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. If he is disputing the figures, is he saying that the Transpower statement of intent tabled by his minister is actually wrong?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no. What I am saying is that the member is potentially extrapolating data that isn't correct.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Given the figures that householders are paying $370 additional for their power, does he concede that his government has directly increased power prices?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no, those prices are obviously set by the particular companies that sell them. What the government has done is look to strengthen the network in New Zealand. I think that's a sensible thing to happen. Mr Speaker, I know the member's desperate to talk about anything other than his man-ban policy, but, you know, that's the way it is.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Does he think it's acceptable that despite having some...
Order. Again, would members please refrain from interjecting? Would the member now please start his question again?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does he think it's acceptable that despite having some of the cheapest electricity generation in the world, despite having flat demand or declining demand, that prices increased $118 in the last year for the average household?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, firstly, I think most New Zealanders...
Order. I have a point of order from the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Very reluctant to raise this point of order, but down this end, we can't hear a thing because of people screaming out at the National Party about a man ban, which we all know they've had in place in their party for a long time.
and that the latter part is not a point of order. The first part is a legitimate point of order, and order. If the member at the back of the chamber is claiming he couldn't hear the question, I invite Mr. Shearer to say it again.
Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Does he think it acceptable that despite having some of the cheapest electricity in the world, our declining demand or flat prices continue to increase up to $118 in the last year for the average household, when we actually should be facing some of the lowest power prices in the world?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, firstly, let's put the facts on the table. Power prices went up much more rapidly under Labor than under a national government. Secondly, it's always important to invest in infrastructure, and that means making sure that the networks are robust. Thirdly, the Labor Party were not so long ago arguing about the merits of dividends and why they're important. And fourthly, to the Right Honourable Winston Peters, I'm amazed that he thinks that National Party's had a ban on men, given he joined the National Party and ran for it.
And that part's unnecessary. Question number 4. Order. Order. I'd be reluctant to see the Leader of the House have to leave the chamber for interjecting. Question number 4. Well, if the